Payroll to me, it's about the people. It's about trust, consistency, making sure that the one thing, their check, that they rely on is always right. It's not all about the numbers or the deadlines. It's somebody's rent and their groceries. And it's just how companies show that they value their employees. So payroll means responsibility, service, and most of all, it means making a difference quietly while you're behind the scenes. Networking has been huge for me. Putting yourself outside of that comfort zone and just talking to somebody that you wouldn't talk to has opened up so many doors. I fully believe that putting yourself out of that comfort zone and just really pushing yourself will open up opportunities and just put you in the right place.
Keeping businesses thriving, compliance and safe, forecasting strategy, it's all on our mind. It's time payroll took its place in the boardroom to shine.
Managing a global team is complex, but Deel makes it simpler with payroll, HR, IT, and compliance all in one place. That's why over 35,000 businesses trust Deel to hire, pay, and manage their teams worldwide. See how Deel works at deel.com/nickday. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform. Hello and welcome back to the Payroll Podcast, the show that dives deep into the people, processes, and passion behind the profession that keeps the world paid. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. Please do remember to click follow or subscribe. But most importantly, please can you share this episode with all of your colleagues and friends? That will really help us raise the profile of the profession worldwide. My name is Nick Day. I'm your host today. I'm the CEO of JGA Recruitment Group. We're an international payroll recruitment firm. So if you have any requirements for payroll talent within your business, please do get in touch with myself and my team, and there will be a link to our business in the show notes. Now, today I am joined by Carlyn Davis, CPP and Director of Payroll at CBRE Government and Defense Services. She's also the 2024 Texas Payroll Professional of the Year and the current president of the Alamo chapter of Payroll Professionals in San Antonio, Texas. I got the wonderful opportunity to meet with Carlyn when I was over in Texas quite recently. We had a wonderful conversation. I have to say, it was then that I really came to understand just how much expertise she could bring to today's episode and to today's show. Carlyn brings over 2 decades of experience navigating the complexities of payroll within the high-stakes worlds of government and defense. What makes her journey even more compelling is how she decided after 18 years working in payroll to go all in and earn her CPP certification as well. She's not only a fierce advocate for payroll leadership, but she's also a voice of service in our community. So whether that's through her board work with Paytech, mentoring rising professionals, or helping transform payroll culture from the inside out, she is someone that truly embodies passion for payroll. So without further ado, Carlyn, welcome to the Payroll Podcast. How are you feeling?
Hi, Nick. I'm feeling great. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Super excited to have you. You know, I'm going to start. My first question is the same for all my guests, and is this: what does the word payroll mean to you?
Payroll to me, it's about the people. It's about trust, consistency, making sure that the one thing, their check, that they rely on is always right. It's not all about the numbers or the deadlines. It's somebody's rent and their groceries. And it's just how companies show that they value their employees. So payroll means responsibility, service, and that most of all, it means making a difference quietly while you're behind the scenes.
I love that. And you raise a really important point there as well, is that link between financial wellness, which also links to mental wellness. You know, the idea that if we have to get that right, or it could really impact and have kind of that tidal effect on all the other things. So payroll is just so important to our well-being and to our employees' well-being. But you must have seen that change a lot over the 18 years you've been in the profession. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in payroll.
So I was working for a Ford dealership and I wasn't even in the payroll area. There was a lady that went on vacation and didn't want to come back. And so where they say most payroll people fall into payroll, I just fell right in. And over the next 18 years, I just kept going until I found out where I wanted to be.
So what was it that first attracted you then? I know there's an opportunity there where someone left, but what was it that went, you know what, I can step into those shoes? Was there something about payroll that made you think this is something you could really do? Or what was it that went through your mind in that moment?
I've always been very employee focused. And I really liked the I really liked the idea that I was going to be able to step in and help with that piece and make sure that everybody was getting paid correctly.
And was it a tough transition? How did you find the learnings of getting, 'cause we know there's a lot of compliance, lots of things we have to understand in payroll. If you're outside payroll, people don't realize how complex it is. They think we kind of press a button and we get paid. So how did you find that learning curve for you in that moment?
You know, for the first 18 years of my career, it was it was really just pushing a button. It really was just on the job training and doing as I was taught and what I was able to learn on my own. And it wasn't until I decided to go for my certification that I really realized what this industry and this career is.
Oh, well, let's talk about that then, 'cause I know it was a seminal moment for you. So you spent 18 years in payroll before pursuing your CPP certification. So what motivated you in that moment to go for a qualification, to broaden that expertise and that level of certification?
So I was working as a payroll specialist and I had my annual review. And my boss came to me and he said, hey, I'm going to challenge you. I want you to join PAYO. I want you to study for your CPP and I'd like to see you pass it. And at that 18-year mark in my career, and I still don't know how this is, I had not ever heard of PAYO. I didn't know about the certification. I didn't know about local chapters, none of it. And when I enrolled in or joined PAYO and then started studying for my test, I was like, I've been doing this for 18 years. What could I not know after 18 years, right? And I think it was on like page 3 of the material that I realized that I didn't know near what I thought I did. And so I studied really, really hard for about 6 months and I went and sat for my test and I passed. And that that journey didn't just give me my certification. Once I had that piece of paper, that wasn't all it was. It completely changed my career at that point.
It's a wonderful, just to even hear you talk about it. It really highlights PAYO is a wonderful organization. I've been out to Congress a couple of times. I work very closely with their editorial board on the publication. So big fan of the work that they do. But it just goes to show that we're such a big community, but actually there's a lot of things that you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you haven't heard of PAYO, you need someone to introduce it to you. That has obviously had a big influence on your career. You then open it in page 3, you realize you don't know everything there is to know, but now you realize there's a new journey we can go on, that learning journey. So tell me a little bit about how that influenced. How did things change after that certification for you then? How did it broaden your horizons for you?
Once I got my certification, I really was just on fire for the learning and getting as much education as I could. I started taking more classes and attending webinars and just soaking it all up. I joined the board of contributing writers for Paytech, which has really been an honor. Um, PAYO has really helped me stay not just on top of the technical side, but a lot of what I've gotten from it has helped me develop as a leader and a speaker and has helped me be able to pour some of what I've learned into others. It's PAYO has been one of the biggest accelerators so far in my professional journey.
We're talking to speakers. I had Patricia Fripp on the show quite recently, a wonderful speaker. You'll always see at Congress, so I know gives a lot of that coaching and training to people that want to get into that space. Just to let people know, if you're listening to this, and maybe you're someone who's come to my show and you've never heard of PAYO either, we're really referring to payroll.org. If you want to find out more, I will put a link in the show notes as well. But go and have a look at yourself. There's a wealth of resources, publications like Paytech, courses, and a whole lot more. So if you've never heard of it either, don't worry. You're in the right place. It will obviously help your career as it's helped Carlyn's. So let's fast forward a little bit because you, of course, were the 2024 Texas Payroll Professional of the Year. Now, this is a major award. It's a major honor, the most esteemed honor you can have in the state of Texas. So what did that recognition mean to you? And tell me a little bit about how it came about, how you managed to win that wonderful award.
So my nomination was with the Texas Payroll Conference. And that day, because I had no idea that I wasn't even going to attend conference. I was very busy at work and I had to make a decision if I was going to attend that conference or if I could extend some training to my team for something else. And so I had passed and it was like 2 weeks before conference and my supervisor came to me and said, "Hey, guess what? You're going to conference. We bought your ticket." And so that was great. And then that day I was sitting there and I was in the front row and I was actually working. I had my laptop out. There was some fire at work, and I was working, and I was listening to the previous year's winner, Melissa, talk about the person that they were about to award. And I kept hearing little pieces, and I was like, that's me. And then, no, it's not. And I kept working. And then when they announced it and called it up, I mean, it was so surreal and humbling to be called that. I don't do this for the recognition. I never have. I do it because I care about the people. But to have my peers see and acknowledge that just really meant everything to me.
That must have been a wonderful moment. It shows how humble you are, the fact you didn't even recognize they were talking about you until you were busy away because, that well, it speaks a lot to your character as well. It's understated and very modest in where we are. What do you think were the steps, though, that caused the impact that allowed you to win that award? What are some of the things you'd changed or things you'd started to do to contribute towards that certification or that award, rather?
It's really just been taking that extra step. So, I took the extra step on my certification, and then that led to the extra steps of let's take some additional classes. Let's go to some webinars. Networking has been huge for me. The amount, putting yourself outside of that comfort zone and just talking to somebody that you wouldn't talk to has opened up so many doors. And I fully believe that putting yourself out of that comfort zone and just really pushing yourself will open up opportunities and just put you in the right place.
Well, it's definitely speaking my language when it comes to networking. It's actually what's led us to here, right? I mean, I reached out to Carlyn. I was in Texas. I was holding a restaurant dinner, and I reached out. We hadn't really connected before, but why wouldn't I want the Texas Payroll Professional of the Year to be at the table? So I reached out, and I realized only on reflection that that was probably quite a risk for you to take. We hadn't met before. You got this random message from a guy in the UK who happened to say he was in your town. But you took the risk. You came and went for dinner along with several other individuals. We had a great chat. We talked about the podcast. We talked about your career and other bits and pieces. It led us to where we are now. And I think, you need to be. I think everyone needs to be applauded for taking that level of risk and that kind of throw out to build those networks, because you never know where they can lead. And obviously, in this instance, hopefully, it's led us to an episode on the Payroll Podcast today, but also a friendship, and we've connected at Payroll and other places as well. But also for you, it's allowed you to. You haven't stopped. You haven't sort of laid bare with your award. You've now become the president of the Alamo chapter at Payroll Professionals as well. So tell me a little bit more about what that involves and what made you take that leap.
So when I joined the Alamo chapter, which again, I didn't know about chapters prior to my certification, I joined only because I needed to keep my RCH credits up. And, we have monthly meetings. But what happened wasn't what I expected. I walked into those meetings, I was quiet, but eventually I started to get involved, and I talked to a couple of people. Then I volunteered a little bit, and then I was on the board as president-elect. And the next thing you know, I'm the chapter president. So, what began as something that I had to do to keep up my credits has turned into something that I get to do and I love to do. It's being a part of this chapter has really helped me grow as a professional, as a leader, and just as a person. The connections that I've made through my chapter, and then that's put me in contact with other chapters as well. It all goes back to networking again.
It does. Let me dive into a little bit then about that leadership growth. How has it helped you to grow? What are some of the things that you've learned or you discovered on that journey that's really helped improve your leadership style or your leadership path?
The confidence that I've gotten from the additional education, from the additional mentors, and from having the network that I can reach out to when I have a difficult question or a difficult scenario has been, it's really just allowed me to grow. And I've gone from who I was when I got my certification, and I've truly just grown into the person that I have, and I've sharpened all my skills, and it's what's made me who I am right now.
It's amazing. I mean, I can't imagine you not being a confident Carlyn, but that's the person I've met post-award, right? So I didn't see you before in that 18-year journey. What's been the time frame then from you beginning your CPP to becoming the Alamo chapter president?
So it has been 6 years since I was certified. So it took me 18 years to start payroll and get to where I was. But in the 6 years that I've had my certification, I've come so much further than I did in that first 18.
First 18 years to get to page 3, and the next 6 years of the book, and afterwards now presidents and award winning. It's wonderful. But I love that because it shows anyone listening to this, right? It's never too late to change your trajectory, to put your head above the parapet and say, I want to get involved. I want to write for Paytech. I want to contribute an article. I want to get involved in a chapter discussion. It starts from acorns, they grow into trees. And I think that's something that sometimes people feel after a long career in payroll that they've missed the boat or it's too late. It's a bit like AI now. If a lot of people are saying, well, I haven't got to grips with it yet. Like it's never too late to get started. But equally, it can be very isolating and very overwhelming. And you mentioned earlier that you're on your laptop, you were fighting fires when the award was given, you almost didn't go because you're overwhelmed at work. What would be your advice to those payroll professionals who want to do more? They want to contribute, they want to do some volunteering work in the industry, they want to give back, but they are overwhelmed, they are struggling with the time. How do we manage that balance?
You just have to do it. There's never a right time to do it. Everybody keeps waiting until they're ready. When I'm ready to do this, I'll do that. Well, you're never ready. You have to put your foot out there and do it. If I had waited until I had time at work to do any of the things that I want to do, a conference, a class, write an article, sit down with you for your podcast. I mean, we don't have time and we're not ever ready, but you just have to push yourself.
I love that. I always think the time is always there if you're motivated enough to do it. You got to dial into that motivation to make it happen. What do you think about the burnout issue we've got in payroll? And I've seen a lot of wonderful professionals retire, leave the industry, struggle, particularly due to overwork. And I think this is one of the reasons I'm really a big fan of AI because I think we need to support the community. Since AI has been introduced, I haven't heard any payroll managers say they're not working as hard as they've ever worked before. So we know we need the augmented support, right? But I wonder from your perspective, as someone who's managing chapters, you're doing all these different bits and pieces. The motivation is there, but how do you protect yourself from a burnout scenario as well? Any advice you can give to other listeners who may be struggling with something similar?
Well, I would just say, what works for me is that I'm a little bit everywhere. And, I'm able to go to my chapter meetings and speak with my chapter or my board, and they're my friends, and it's fun and it's not work. And I go to work and I have a great leadership team that I'm a part of, and we have a nice time, and they're family oriented. And we do have to work very hard sometimes. I do have to put in a lot of hours, but my company recognizes that and they'll let us know, hey, you need to step back and have some time with your family. And I really think we have to work hard to keep that balance and make sure that it's something that we love and that we want to do. If you had asked me back in 2018 if I wanted to be speaking somewhere or leading or pouring out information into others, I wouldn't have told you yes. But it was, with what's happened in my career, it's just the logical place for me to be.
It sounds like a truly remarkable transformation. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak to someone who's been on such a transformative journey. I think it gives hope to so many others that sometimes feel a bit disillusioned, disconnected, sometimes even from the industry. You're so head down, we get a lot of complaints coming in. No one ever calls you and says, hey, thanks for getting my payroll correct this cycle. You get those calls when it goes wrong. And it can be sometimes a lonely place. So I think your story is really one of hope and of excitement for those that maybe are feeling disconnected to get reconnected through networks and other opportunities. I want to pivot a little bit into your current role as well. You said you've got a very supportive leadership team, but you're really processing what I would call a very high stakes payroll function, right? You're dealing with defense and there's rigorous compliance. How do you manage that? I mean, there must be some really unique challenges within your own payroll operation.
I'm going to agree with you. We are very, very heavy union where I work. And so I think we're under about 45 different CBAs right now. And that makes a lot of compliance and a lot of different rules that we have to keep up with. And so we have different areas of our team that focus on that and make sure, that we're all looking at something. And then, the employees really motivate me, and I have like-minded people on my team. And we do what we can to make sure that our team and our employees are taken care of, and they know they're taken care of. And I think that's very important.
Attention payroll leaders. If you're listening to this, you already know that payroll has never been more complex. Compliance risks are rising, skilled talent is scarce, and getting it wrong can cost your business way more than just money. It can cost you trust, retention, and of course, brand reputation. I'm Nick Day, host of this show and also CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist global payroll recruiters. Here at JGA, we're so passionate about payroll, we've even turned it into music. Don't believe us? Head to your favorite audio platform and search for Payroll Powers the World, and you can quite literally join us in song about how we believe payroll deserves its moment in the boardroom to shine. At JGA, we'd like to think our passion shines through to our recruitment results as well. With a 97% retention rate and an average 19-day job brief to hire success rate, we work fast, we work strategically, and we work with purpose to connect you to the hidden payroll talent that job ads and direct search methods will simply never reach. So if you're hiring or indeed planning to hire, why not partner with the experts that are shaping the future of payroll? Partner with jgarecruitment.com today, or better yet, drop me a message directly, and together we can make sure your next payroll hire is your best one yet. Does it have an added impact on it? I don't know if it does or it doesn't. I'm thinking if I was a payroll leader for a sector where perhaps I didn't have any, I might love the team, I might love the culture, but actually I had no real connection to the service they provided. Maybe they made widgets for beer cans. I don't know, whatever it might be, right? But I love the employees. Does it make a difference when you are responsible for the payroll for government and defense? You know that people are there to protect your country. They're doing really good service work. Do you think that has an impact on the passion behind the payroll, or not? I'm not being in your shoes to answer that question. I just thought I'd ask while I've got the opportunity.
So I'm going to answer both ways. I'm going to say no, it doesn't matter, because I am employee focused, and I want to make sure that everybody's got their money for what they need it for. But at the same time, we are here to make sure that those people that are serving our country have the infrastructure support that they need in place to do their jobs. And we don't want them to worry about their payroll. That's the last thing we want them to worry about. We have, expats that are overseas, possibly in dangerous areas, doing their jobs. And again, payroll needs to be the least of their concern.
Yeah, I like that response. I've never even thought to ask that question before of anyone I've ever had on the show, but I think because of the kind of work that they're doing, I wonder if that hadn't. It sounds like it doesn't. It doesn't. It was a good answer, and it just made me think a little bit. When it comes to payroll now, so you're much more experienced. You've flown through the CPP. You're now president of the Alamo chapter and award-winning payroll professional as well. Are there any myths or misconceptions about payroll now that you've had the journey that you've had, that perhaps we can start to demystify a little bit or debunk for people that perhaps haven't quite made it as far in their journey yet, but are struggling in other areas? We want to go right now. This is really what payroll's about, and kind of leave that stuff.
So I think one of the biggest myths with payroll is that it's just numbers, it's just processing payroll, it's just pushing a button. It is so much more than just payroll. It's compliance, and it's human, and it's regulations, and there's so much to it. You can't just go into the payroll industry and be like, oh, well, I'm just going to process payroll for the rest of my life, because there's so many different areas that you can go into, taxes, or, there's so many different places.
So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to that first time you were thrown into payroll at the deep end, you took the opportunity to come in, what changes would you make now if you could redo your career and you had the opportunity to make some of those maybe decisions a bit earlier, like the certification? Anything if you had the opportunity again, you would change or shift?
I don't know how I made it 18 years without knowing about payroll org or my certification, because I was working for some pretty large companies and processing a lot, but that's the one thing I would change. If I could have gotten some of that education earlier in my career, if I've gone this far in 6 years, if I had gotten my certification in 2010, where could I be today?
Well, let's ask that now. Where would you like to be tomorrow? What's your future plan in the next 10 years? If we were able to have that time back and we've now got that time going forward, what's the big goal for Carlyn?
Well, my company we do have a lot of OCONUS work, and we're working to pull it more back into not pull the work away, but pull the OCONUS processing in. So I'm going to be working on my global skills. And I really love what Payroll Org has done for me. So I want to get more involved in Payo and see what I can give back.
Very good. And I know we've got a lot of listeners in the US, so it'll be interesting to see if they concur with your view in the next question. But certainly in the UK, we don't really know what the most complex processes are for the US. And sometimes we won't realize that every state has a different set of rules, regulations, and compliance. What do you find is the most challenging aspect of domestic US payroll?
For me, it is taxes. The for a while, I had decided that I was going to take all of the tax classes that I could. I really wanted to get it absorbed into my brain. That way, anytime anybody asked me a question, I could just deliver. And I've given up on that. It's just too much. There's too many states, too many localities, and I just made sure to familiarize myself with where I need to go to get an answer if I need it.
So is there anything about that process that if you had a magic wand and you could change it that you would? Or is it
If I had a magic wand, I would put all of it in my head, and then I would know it.
okay? Well, that's fair. So what is it that's keeping you excited about the future of payroll? We've got a lot of change. The industry is going through a lot of change. 5 years ago, even from now, we weren't talking about employee experience and payroll in the same breath. We weren't talking about chief payroll officers in the same breath. We weren't really talking about AI in payroll. I think there were three sort of major shifts that I'm seeing in the industry sort of take place at the same time. Where do you see the industry headed? What are the things that you're excited about? But also, what are the things you're maybe a little more anxious or nervous about? Or maybe there isn't anything, but I'm keen to get your view.
I'm really excited because it there's the sky's the limit. There's constant regulation changes. There's more and more compliance that we need to know about. My current company is growing. I mean, it's a really exciting time, and I can't wait to see where the company goes, where I go. I'm really loving the journey right now, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I really can't wait to see the end result.
Future PAO president? Maybe? Watch this space. Heard it here first. I don't know. Little prediction going out there. What's your view on AI in payroll? A lot of people worried that it's going to impact jobs in the profession. I have my own view on AI in payroll, but I wanted to get your view. Is it something you're excited and embracing? Something you're nervous about? Still on the fence?
I was nervous for a while, but I am embracing it more now. I think it is never going to replace those of us that are doing the job. I think it's too human of a job, but it is definitely there, and it can assist us in all areas of what we're trying to accomplish. So I think as it keeps growing, I think it's gonna really benefit everybody.
And what's your view on the chief payroll officer? I know Pete Tiliakos is really keen to drive that narrative. We need more chief payroll officers, people having a voice at the board table. My personal view, for what it's worth, is I think there will come to fruition, but I can only really see a chief payroll officer existing in the near term within a payroll-centered business, so a vendor or a software provider where you need that voice. But this is just my view, maybe incorrect. What's your view on the chief payroll officer? Do you think we'll see it in private enterprise that's not payroll associated, or do you think we need it?
I love the idea. I think it's great. I've worked places where payroll has fallen under finance, and I've worked places where it's fallen under HR. And in both places, it's kind of always been a struggle, because payroll is different and it sits in the middle. So it would be great for payroll to truly have its own seat at the table.
Do you think it'll happen?
I hope so.
I hope so. Okay, no, we'll watch this space again. That's fine. What's the one biggest obstacle you've got at the moment that you think is preventing progress for payroll as a profession? What's the thing that's holding it back?
Education. So, like me, for example, I went so long without knowing what a lot of the resources were that were out there that made me a better payroll person. And I think there's a lot of people like that. I've done hiring recently in my company, and then I asked the people, have you heard of PAYO? Do you have your certification? And a lot of people tell me no, or they don't need it. And I think a lot of people just don't realize the benefit of that additional education, that additional networking, and what they can get out of some of those resources that would really, really help their career.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think from my own research, there's about 100,000 payroll professionals, and about 30,000 of those are payer members. So we know there's a huge market of people that still aren't familiar with it. Maybe they're listening to this show. Maybe they'll go and check it out after this, after your high endorsement and showing what it's done for you. But the same in the UK, we've got the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals, but there's about 9,000 members and about 20,000 payroll professionals. So again, lots of people not familiar with the kind of bodies that are out there to support the industry, to support learning, to support education. So I think if you and I can give them a shout out here to help people, we should do that because as you are a walking example, it can really turbocharge your career and move it forward. How have you used your learning then to engage your team? So you mentioned you had a recruitment recently. Some of them weren't aware of it, but I imagine those that work for you must be very aware of PAYO now and what it can do. How have you used your experience to really help nurture and grow your own team?
When I take a class or I attend a webinar or conference, I'll bring a lot of that material back to my team so I can share with them. I also share my experience and share my networking and how it's changed me. Everybody on my team knows my story. And I hope that that encourages them and the people that I talk to about this story. I hope that it encourages them to reach out and make some of those changes themselves, some of those leaps and invest in themselves.
Yeah, I think it's good advice. I think also for you, the journey you've been on is not just in terms of compliance and legislation knowledge and technical. You've also been on a bit of a leadership journey, right? So you've grown as a leader. What do you think are the skills that payroll professionals perhaps most need to develop to become, to become effective in leadership, to become effective in the boardrooms, to really grow that level of excellence? Because it's a soft skill that I think is probably slightly overlooked. Often we get promoted due to our capabilities in running an accurate payroll, not necessarily because of our effectiveness as a leader. I want to try and bridge that gap as best we can. So I'd love to get your advice.
It was a confidence that I didn't realize I was lacking. I've always been a strong payroll person. I've always been very employee focused. Um, I've always cared about my team and want people to succeed. But with the growth that I've gotten throughout this journey, it has really helped me with, again, the confidence that I just didn't know that I really needed to step up. And it's made me more comfortable. I can be in a tough room or I can be sitting with, top execs, and I'm able to answer the hard questions that they ask me. And I don't know that I could have done that 5 years
That's
ago.
nice. I like that as well. I had on my other show a guy called Don on talking about leadership recently and momentum, and he said everyone has leadership within them. You don't have to be in a leadership role to be able to demonstrate leadership. Sometimes you need to turn that tap to unlock it. It sounds like that tap was kind of opened when you started your CPP journey, and it unlocked so much that's now coming to the fore, and you're helping others, and you're voluntarily, but and within your teams as well. Someone's unlocked or turned that tap on, whichever way you want to look at it, and really your leadership potential started to flourish. So, wonderful story. Huge congratulations, of course, on winning the Payroll Professional of the Year award for Texas in 2024. Huge congratulations for becoming the Alamo president as well. We're going to open the vault. So, three short, sharp questions for you now, Carlin. The first is this: what's the biggest lesson you've learned about people and leadership from working in payroll?
We are all here to accomplish the same thing. We all want to succeed. We all want to make sure that our job is done correctly and accurately. And what I've really learned from the people in this space is that we're all here for each other. And we can all, if I have a hard question or, something I need to run by, there's a handful of people, a large handful of people that I can just reach right out and I can get an opinion from somebody, that that I feel has a lot more experience than I do. I just love having the network.
I love that. I think it's, what? So I've got exposure to two industries. I've got recruitment and I've got payroll. I consider myself part of the payroll community. And the reason for that is the payroll community is so giving. I can reach out and people are willing to help. They're willing to give up their free time, their voluntary time to say, hey, Nick, we can help you with this challenge. Have we put you in touch with this person? I can put an invite out and people will come and join us for dinner. We can have a good conversation. There's great awards, great community spirit. Recruitment, I don't want to speak ill of my profession either. but it's very different. Like, it's not so open, it's not so warm, it's not so embracing. So which is why I've kind of always navigated away from it, and I think if you've never worked outside of the payroll industry, maybe we sometimes we can take that for granted. We just think all industries are like that. I truly believe payroll is unique. It's an industry of support and network and friends and community and warmth and kindness. I just don't think many other industries or professions have it. I really don't. I've seen it, and in my experience, payroll stands as an island like that, and it sounds like you've experienced something similar.
I have with the community. I've really found people who they understand the work. They're happy to share their knowledge, and they're so happy to lift each other up.
Let me crack on with question number 2 then. If you could change one thing about the entire global payroll industry overnight with a magic wand, what would that change be?
Consistency. We are looking right now. We have payroll in I think 8 different countries overseas, and we're studying them to see, what the different nuances are between them, and they're all so different. And so when we do bring them in-house to process the payroll, it's going to have to be one at a time because we're going to have to learn each one and get subject matter experts on those countries. If I had a magic wand, it would be amazing to just make them be all the same, and then we could just learn one at a time.
Yeah, consistency across global, I think a lot of people would be wishing for. From your experience, I know it's relatively new, you've got those 8 countries, but how more complex or is it similar is that to dealing with multi-state payroll? Because they're both highly complex. I know in the US, it's almost like you're processing for multiple countries when you're doing multiple states. Are there big differences between multi-state and multi-country?
Nick, I've never thought about that. I've always put the US over here and it's multi-state and that's just the way it is. And I've put global so far over there and it's going to be something to learn, and you've got a really good point. I think if we look at it as it's just multi-state. I mean, that's really all it is.
I think the state of Texas is bigger than the United Kingdom or certainly bigger than England. So that's how I would look at it. I think the states are so big and it's so vast. I know that Pennsylvania is completely different payroll to, you know, to where you are in Texas. There's so many different rules and regulations I can imagine. The main difference is probably being more cultural, language barriers, of course, dealing with the cultural nuance, which is obviously going to be different. Even if the legislation is the same, there's a cultural nuance. We're dealing with states to China to Spain to France. So I imagine that's something else to navigate. No one ever said payroll was easy, right? That's the beauty. It's an incredibly complex profession where the journey never ends. And I think you've demonstrated that wonderfully. My last question then is if payroll was a song, a movie, or a book, you can choose which one, whatever you prefer. What would it be and why?
So, I heard a song. I believe it's written by you.
Oh, okay. I like this already.
I forget the name of it, but I've got it saved on my computer and I don't want to pull it up. But the payroll song that you put out last year, now you really nailed the payroll industry on that song. And then the one before that, I believe, was a really good one as well.
I've done 2. Yeah, my payroll career is the first one, but it's kind of UK centric. I think the one you're talking about is Payroll Powers the World. You can get that on. I'll do a little plug for it. Thank you, Carlyn, for bringing it up. But you've got Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your music, Apple. It's called Payroll Powers the World. And yeah, hopefully it speaks to the profession, talks about getting a place in the boardroom and a lot of fun making it and a lot of fun being able to give something back to the community through song. So yeah, thank you. I'll put a link in the show notes as well for those that are interested. But while you're getting out as a song and giving me a plug, let me ask one more question of you, if I may. If you could get the listeners that have tuned into this episode to take just one key message away from today's conversation, what would you want it to be?
I would tell anybody listening, just you don't have to wait to be ready. Just start. If that's start the chapter, or excuse me, join the chapter or take the class or introduce yourself. Say yes to the thing that scares you just a little bit. Your best investment, and that's you have to do that for yourself.
Love that. One of my favorite movies is called About a Zoo, which has Matt Damon in it. I don't know if you're familiar with movies or if you've watched it. I'm sure some of the listeners will have done. It's actually about the zoo that is about 20 minutes from my home here in Devon in the UK. That's the zoo it's based upon. But in that movie, he talks about having 20 seconds of courage. If you just have that 20 seconds of courage to reach out to that person, say that thing, do the thing that scares you, you never know, wonderful things could happen on the other side. For you, it was taking that courage to go and do that certification, to go and visit your first chapter, to go to the awards when you had other work to do. But each time you've grown on every single step along the way. And I think that's something that, to resonate and to align with what you've just said there, be brave, reach out, because actually you'll be surprised at how welcoming and warm this payroll community is in return. I've had a wonderful conversation. I always enjoy our conversations, Carlyn. I hope we have many more when we connect next time. But for those that have really enjoyed today's episode, please do remember to review and subscribe to the show. If you want to connect with Carlyn, I will put her LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well as a link to the CBRE Government and Defense Services page as well if you want to find out more about the operation. But otherwise, I will say 2024 Texas Payroll Professional of the Year and President of the Alamo chapter of Payroll Professionals, Carlyn Davis, CPP. Thank you ever so much for joining me on today's episode of the Payroll Podcast.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Global teams are more connected today than ever, but managing payroll, HR, and IT can still feel fragmented. But Deel simplifies global work with one platform that keeps everything running smoothly. No compliance guesswork, no third-party payroll, just seamless operations backed by 24/7 expert support. That's why over 35,000 companies trust Deel to handle their global workforce. Visit deel.com/nickday to see how Deel can help. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform.